Hey, what's up, everybody? James here with another little geek talk. We're going to talk about a few things that are in the news for geek, Marvel, Star Wars type stuff this week, and then we'll kind of go on from there, see if anybody's in chat and take any questions, and we'll see how this goes. Anyways, let's cut the music. All right. Oh, let's see. I definitely need. Let's do this. Oh, I got this on wrong. All right, cool. There we go. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously Black Widow got delayed again, and I know I've kind of been through the chats on like Facebook and all those things in social media, and there seems like I don't get the anger towards that, to be honest with you. Here's the deal. It has to be delayed. They have hard decisions to make on this. It's not like they're saying that they don't want to release it. I mean, they wanted to release it a year ago, basically, just less than a year ago. And I mean, if everything was perfect, that's what they would have done. But the thing is, this pandemic is really messing with things. And I understand, like, so I think it was May 7th, I think it was supposed to be out. That's the vaccines are rolling out. I understand that. I think a lot of people thought that maybe that window for the release of Black Widow would have worked out, and perhaps it would have, but at the same time, I think that these Disney execs, these Marvel execs, are probably they're probably getting information that we're not getting, or they're probably got people that they're paying a lot of money to get in there and actually try to figure out what's going on with this. So they probably feel pretty comfortable that May, not as many people are going to be going out to the theaters yet. July, there's probably going to be a lot more. I think that they probably feel pretty comfortable that by July, considering it'll be summer, there will be even without the vaccines, the infection rate is probably going to go down a little bit. I think that they probably feel pretty comfortable that July is just a month where they are going to be able to do a little bit more business or sell more tickets to Black Widow. And especially considering that they're planning on doing it on the Disney Plus premiere also. They've got to really try to do their best to earn some money that they spent. I don't know what the budget was on Black Widow, but it's probably at least $150 million budget on this. They're going to want to recoup some of that. And not only that, but what I think is kind of important for this movie in particular is that this is a character that's been around in the MCU for a long time, and I think that they want to give it the best opportunity possible to have somewhat of a box office revenue, so they could see how well it did. I think that they owe it to Black Widow, to Scarlett Johansson, to at least give it a shot. And with it being released on Disney Plus Premiere also, that's going to really make it more difficult for that to happen. So I think postponing it to July really helps that out a little bit and gives it a better opportunity to get, I think at that point it's probably going to be the number one movie for the year at that point. I think it's probably, I think like $12 or $13 million is probably the highest opening week that any film has had this year. And I think it's going to destroy that, even with it being on Disney Plus Premiere. So I think it's a good idea. I don't want it to happen. I'd love to be just, a month and a half away from seeing Black Widow. However, I also feel like there's a good chance that I'll be able to go see it in the theater if it's released in July, whereas I'm not sure if I want to be comfortable going into the theater by May. I haven't really decided on that. That's the next question is, will people spend the $30, which we're assuming? They haven't announced what the cost is going to be for the premiere on this, but it's been $30, I think, for Raya and the Last Dragon and for Mulan. So I'm guessing the Black Widow is going to also be $30. But the question is, do you spend the $10, $15 or whatever is tickets in your area to go see it in the theater, plus snacks. So it's going to end up being a lot more, especially if you're taking a family to it, or you're going to spend the $30 so that you have it for that month and you can see it as many times as you want. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the public does on this. Me myself, I believe, at least my game plan right now, if it feels like the theaters are safe to go to, I think that I'm probably going to go and see it in the theater on, hopefully they still have a Thursday night on it. Wouldn't surprise me if they wait till and just have a Friday opening like old school, but it'd be cool to have a Thursday night. I'm probably going to go see it in the theater by myself, just sit there in the crowd, get that experience again for a long time, first time in a long time, and probably see Black Widow in the theater. And then I'm probably going to pay the $30 to be able to watch it with my family and sit there in the comfort of my own living room to see Black Widow. So that's probably my game plan. I probably won't be the only one that kind of does the hybrid model. But I'm really interested to see what this film does compared to what Raya and the Last Dragon and Mulan did, because this is a Marvel film. If you look at just how well the first two Disney Plus Marvel shows did, they're blowing up the internet. So I think that there is a desire for people to see another Marvel film. It'll be the first time, and it'll be 2 years about at that time between Spider-Man Far From Home and then Black Widow. So I think people are really going to be ready for it. But at the same time, with it being available on Disney Plus Premiere, it's going to eat into some of the box office take. This is a sad thing. I was looking forward to it last year because I really wanted to see what Black Widow, this semi-minor character, she's one of the original Avengers, but she's definitely not one of the top Avengers. I was really interested to see what Black Widow's solo film was going to do in the box office last year. Was it going to be a $100 million opening? Was it going to hit $1 billion overall? It almost feels like any film in the MCU at this point is going to hit $1 billion worldwide, no matter what. But is that true for a more minor character? The fact that we've already seen her fate in Endgame, is that going to dissuade people from going and seeing the film? I was really interested in seeing that. Now that it's going to get this hybrid model, and I do believe that this is the last time it'll be delayed. I do believe that it'll come out July 7th or July 9th. Even if for whatever reason theaters get closed down again, I think it's going to be released on Disney Plus Premiere just by itself. If it can't get in the theater, I think we'll see it then. But we're not going to get a really good feel for how this film would have done if the pandemic never happened. However, we will be able to, I think, take and compare it to what other films have done this year. And if it does $20, $25, $30 million in the opening week, and if it's the number one film in the world for 2021, which I think, take that back, I think that there's some Chinese films, because Chinese theaters are open pretty much. I think there's a Chinese film that's done gangbusters this year, so it probably won't be the number one film in the world. But if it's the number one domestic film of the year, before Shang-Chi comes out, I think we'll be able to say, you know what, this is a film that would have done really well in the theaters had it been released last year and the pandemic didn't happen. I know, and then there's a lot of other people that really are like, oh, I paid for Disney Plus. Why are they charging me extra for this? Well, if we want to be able to see some of these premiere films over this next, a few months or whatever, this is probably the model we're gonna have to accept. This is a film that they put a budget into where they're expecting to earn that back in the box office. So them just adding it to the Disney Plus for the $8 a month or whatever it is, which is still one of the cheapest streaming services out there, they weren't going to do that. They weren't going to just make it available on Disney Plus. And people are like, well, HBO Max is doing that. Well, HBO Max is $15 a month. That's almost double what Disney Plus is. So for them to create or have films that come out straight to HBO Max, they can recoup that a lot better as they get more people to subscribe to HBO Max. They recoup a lot more of that money than what Disney Plus is going to have. And not only that, but with the things that Disney Plus already has, I'm not sure how many more subscriptions they're going to sell to Disney Plus. I don't think they're going to see this huge uptick in subscriptions based off of Black Widow being released on Disney Plus, if Black Widow would have just been released without the premiere thing. So I don't know that Disney Plus would have recouped any of the budget, really, if they would have just released it just on Disney Plus without the premiere access on it. So what do you want to do? They're a business, and yes, they're a business that makes billions. And if they took a loss on one film, so be it. But at the same time, if we ever want to be able to see some of these other minor characters that we kind of want to see movies with, especially like the Disney Plus shows, maybe wanting to see some of these characters get their own solo films. If we want to be able to see that eventually, we need this film to do well and to make money and not be a complete loss. So I think the $30 premiere access for people that want to see it at home, I think is pretty. It is what it is. We'll survive on it, and at no point did I think that they were just going to release it on Disney Plus without having some kind of extra charge on it. That just wasn't going to happen, because once again, $8 a month or whatever it is for Disney Plus versus $15 a month for HBO Max, it's totally different. Not only that, but Disney or HBO Max, they already have a lower subscription count, and by them having Godzilla vs. Kong, this Justice League Snyder Cut, and some of these other films that are coming out on HBO Max, their subscription base is probably going to rise significantly more than what a Black Widow is going to do for Disney Plus. So it makes a lot more sense the way that they did it. The question is, will you go to the theater, or are you going to get the Disney Plus on premiere access, or are you just going to wait for the probably 3 months, I would guess, before it just comes out on regular Disney Plus? The other thing is that now we have 4 MCU films coming in the last 6 months of the year. It's September. We have Shang-Chi, we have Eternals in November, and Spider-Man No Way Home coming in December, so that's kind of exciting. Shang-Chi, I really hope that this pandemic is really under control by the time Shang-Chi comes out and it can be released just in theaters, because that's another one that I'm really interested in seeing what the box office take's going to be. It's a martial arts film set in the MCU. It's a character that most people don't know, and then we've seen where that's done well with other characters. We've seen the Guardians of the Galaxy come out and become one of the biggest hits in the MCU at the time, despite the fact that nobody knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. So for Shang-Chi, I'm very interested to see what it does, to see if Shang-Chi actually has a huge box office take. Can it be a martial arts film that does $1 billion? That's going to be, it's probably going to be tough, because even if things are fully open, I don't know if we'll see $1 billion film for the next couple of years, because I just don't know that the theater going is going to come back full force, which all that's interesting. It could go the other way too, because when theaters are fully open, people could be so hungry to be able to see movies in theaters that maybe they just come out in droves to see some of these movies, and perhaps Shang-Chi is one of the first ones that they do that for. Maybe it becomes the movie that everybody decides to be the first one that they go out and see in the theaters. It'll be very interesting to see. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and my thoughts on the premiere. And I'll be honest with you, the first time watching it, as I'm sitting there just waking up, coffee in hand, not fully awake, I was semi-disappointed in it. And looking back after seeing it 2 more times and kind of watching some other people's videos and their thoughts on it, I don't know why I was disappointed in it, because I think that it did exactly what it needed to do in the first episode. I felt like, the action scene was, even though I thought the action scene in the beginning with Falcon went too long, I feel like they could have cut that back. And I know some of you are going to think I'm freaking crazy because it was such an amazing action sequence and probably one of the best action sequences we've ever seen on TV. Some people were like, wow, no way that they should have cut that back. But I do think that they could have maybe added some more character moments with Falcon and Winter Soldier and maybe Torres or whoever else if they would have cut that back by a couple minutes. I felt like it did go on just a little bit too long. But then everything else that they did within it, the moments in therapy with Bucky, I thought were just absolutely amazing, especially on the second and the third time watching it. Just seeing how he's reacting to it, seeing how the guilt is really kind of making it difficult for him to adjust to a world that he doesn't really understand. And the PTSD that he's feeling, the fact that he's sleeping on the floor. I mean, all these little things that I think are just beautiful and help us understand who the Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes is a lot more. With Falcon, seeing his family, seeing that he's got these problems, even though he's a hero and an Avenger, he's got these problems that all of us have. Even though I do have a couple of issues with that. I don't get how if it's pride that's keeping him from going out and reaching out to Pepper or Happy or some of the other more wealthy Avengers, reaching out to Wakanda. Like, you can't tell me with all their wealth that they want to like loan him a few $100,000 to keep things afloat, or just give it to him for everything that he did, or just literally some billionaire benefactor who realizes that they got their wife or their husband or some of their kids back, that wouldn't be reaching out to some of these Avengers and making sure that they're taken care of. I don't buy that Falcon, that Sam would have money issues. I just, that kind of took me out of it a little bit, and I understand why they added the scene. It creates a situation where we can relate to him, so I understand that completely, but I feel like there should have been some kind of they should have at least addressed that, you know, the sister asking, why don't you just call up one of your friends or whatever, and he said, no, we've got to do this on our own. I'm not going to ask for handouts. The fact that it wasn't addressed, I did have a little bit of an issue with that. I'm going to be honest with you. I did think it was funny when the and oh yeah, spoilers. I guess I didn't even say spoiler warning, but yeah, we're having a discussion about this, so I don't think you should need to say spoiler warning. But anyways, but when he's talking about how Falcon doesn't have any financial information, doesn't have any credit history for the last 5 years, I thought that was kind of funny, because you know what? How many people that were snapped away in the blip, how many of them have these same issues coming back to where they don't have credit for the last 5 years, they don't have work history for the last 5 years? How are companies and organizations dealing with that? How are their are they having to reassess how they do their how they figure out who they're going to give credit to, how they figure out who they're going to rent to, how they figure out who they're going to hire? Are they having to readdress those decisions based off the fact that some of these people just haven't been around for 5 years because they didn't exist? And that to me is kind of fascinating, because the world is going to be, I mean, think about all the situations. Think about how many people lost their husband or wife to the blip, found love again and got married, and now all of a sudden their wife is back, but they already have a different wife. I mean, think about all these different situations that people coming back, all the problems it's gonna cause, even though it's such an incredible thing and all these people get this beautiful reunion with loved ones that they never thought they were gonna see again. There's also that other side that I think is just fascinating, and getting to see that in WandaVision a little bit, and then getting to see some of that fallout here, I think is just absolutely cool. And I hope some of these other movies also do that. I hope that they give us a little bit more insight of what happens after Endgame, and which really comes, you know, it questions like whether it's She-Hulk or some of these other Disney Plus shows. How many of them are going to happen within the first few months of the blip when everybody came back? How many of those are going to happen then? and that's where we're really going to have to. We might get some more insight into it. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope a lot of these shows pick up right after the events of Endgame or somewhat close to it. But as far as some of the other moments, heartbreaking to see Bucky, in his relationship with the old man, and realizing at the end, and kind of foreshadowing it with his interactions with the old guy, understanding that guy we saw in the flashback scene that he killed, that innocent guy that was just a innocent bystander, that was that guy's son. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how they handle that the rest of the season. Is Bucky able to eventually come out to that guy and say, you know what, I was brainwashed by Hydra. I had no control over what I did, but I was the one that killed your son. Because I don't know how I feel like that would turn out. Obviously, Tony Stark didn't care that the Winter Soldier was brainwashed when he killed his parents. He basically in Civil War said, I don't care. And he still hated him after that. And I'm sure he still hated him to the day that he died, even though he was on the same team in Endgame. I don't think that they showed any interaction with those two, if I remember right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if there was interaction, there would not have been a good situation, I don't think. But with this old guy, he seems so zen, seems so just seems like he might be somebody that's wise and will be able to, might still have difficulty being around him. He'll probably lose him as a friend. He probably won't go out to eat with him anymore. But will he be able to forgive him? And how important, if he does forgive him, how important will that be for the recovery of Bucky Barnes and him being able to forgive himself? Because I guess if this is going to be a story about partially about Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, or let's just say if this is going to be more about a story of him no longer being the Winter Soldier, because it is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm guessing by the end of this it'll be Captain America and Bucky Barnes, is what my guess is. Then I think that Bucky has to at some point forgive himself, and he has to move on, and maybe getting forgiveness from this old guy is going to be something that helps him get there. And speaking of a Captain America, we don't get any kind of confirmation about where Cap is. Did he die in the last few months? I don't know that they'll even address it. I don't think this show's even going to talk about it, so I don't even think we'll find out what happened to him. But more importantly, the mantle of Captain America. I didn't surprise me that Sam said, I'm not worthy of this because nobody else is worthy of this, and gave up the shield. That doesn't really surprise me, because I think this will be a story of him feeling like he's worthy of it, and that he needs to take that mantle because America needs somebody to represent what Captain America did, even if he doesn't really feel like he should be the one to do it. But I mean, it's better than the guy that we get, the Walmart Captain America that we got at the end. So I think that's. And I don't even think that guy's going to necessarily be a bad guy. He's just going to be this corporate shill, this guy that really doesn't think for himself. And I think that's going to make us hate him. And I don't think he's going to really do the right things, but I don't think it's going to be out of being evil or anything like that. But he's just not going to represent what Steve did, because Steve thought for himself. He wasn't as patriotic as what Steve Rogers was. He was more patriotic to what America meant than what he was to any individual politicians or what the U.S. government expected of him. And this Walmart Captain America, this new symbol or whatever that the government's kind of throwing at the people, I don't think he's not going to be like that. If they tell him to, if they say, hey, we need you to go slaughter a bunch of kids, he's probably just going to do it and not even question it. So, whereas Sam obviously is going to be somebody that does think for himself and embodies that. like he embodies what Steve Rogers was, even if he doesn't have the powers, even if he isn't as wholesome as what Steve Rogers was. He embodies a lot of what Captain America was. So I'm very interested to see at what point he decides, hey, I need to take the mantle because this guy should not have it, because this guy is a corporate shill. And not only that, but when he decides, I need to take it because I deserve this. Steve thought that I should take the mantle. I need to respect that, and I need to do my best to live up to to Steve Rogers' legacy. And it'll be interesting to see when that happens, because it probably won't fully accept that to the end. Just like I don't think Bucky Barnes is going to completely feel like he's Bucky Barnes and no longer the Winter Soldier until the very end. And those are going to be beautiful moments when both of them kind of come into who they are now compared to who they were in the past. But let me know what you think. What do you think of the Black Widow being delayed again? It being on Premier Access for Disney Plus. Are you mad that they're not just releasing it on Disney Plus and letting you have it for your $8 a month or whatever you're paying for Disney Plus? Are you going to see it in the theater, or are you going to just pay for the $30, or are you going to wait for 3 months until it's on Disney Plus? Also, what are your thoughts on the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier? Did you think that it was a good setup for the series? Was it lackluster, or did you absolutely enjoy the action scenes and think that it was the best thing that Disney Plus has done so far? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Everybody have a great day. Peace out.